Wall Street closes higher on Friday. The Nasdaq hits a record high led by the post-earnings rally in Nvidia, outweighing fears of the Fed postponing interest rate cuts. Asian markets trade higher following a positive close on Wall Street. The GIFT Nifty is also suggesting a positive start for the Indian markets. Crude prices rebound off their 3-month lows on Friday. Brent crude trades around $82 a barrel ahead of the OPEC Plus meeting scheduled for the 2nd of June. Gold remains range-bound above $2,300 an ounce, even as the Fed's rate trajectory remains uncertain. Divi's Laboratories delivers a strong show in the fourth quarter. Revenue growth beats expectations while margins recover to over 30% for the first time in 5 quarters at over 31%. In key earnings to track, NMDC will also be reporting their fourth quarter numbers today. Good morning. We are back with a fresh new week. It's the May series expiry as well. You're watching Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18 in the Mumbai News Center. I am Hormuz Fatakia. Let's first take a look at how the Asian markets have opened this morning, and it's a positive start across the Asian screen. Both the Japanese and the Korean markets have opened higher. The Taiwanese index is up over 1%, as is the Hang Seng. The Hang Seng was a bit of an underperformer last week, falling over 5%. So that is seeing a bit of a rebound from the lows, 0.4% higher. And the Japanese and the Korean indices are also trading with a similar quantum as we speak there, with gains of around 0.4%. Some very important economic data which is set to be reported later this week. China will come out with its PMI numbers. India will also be reporting its GDP data. So all eyes on the Asian markets. Pull up the GIFT Nifty as well, and that was indicating a slightly flat start for our own markets, and it remains that way. 10 points higher is the implied open for our own market. So a flat start likely is suggesting the GIFT Nifty. But from Asia, we move to Wall Street now. And the US markets ended higher on Friday, with the Nasdaq touching new highs on the back of chipmaker Nvidia's rally. The tech-heavy index crossed 185 points, with the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones also gaining. The 10-year yield edged higher to 4.5%, while the dollar index dipped slightly, touching 104.8. CNBC Steve Kovac gets us a wrap of all the action on Wall Street.
Markets all closed higher, with the Nasdaq closing Friday at a new record as Nvidia's strength outweighed worries that the Federal Reserve would delay interest rate cuts. The Dow was up 4 points, the S&P 500 higher by 37 points, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq popped 185 points. Demand for long-lasting items such as cars and airplanes was stronger than expected in April. The Commerce Department reported today durable goods orders rose 0.7% for the month, far better than the consensus estimate of a 1% decline. And Boeing and NASA announced they would move forward with the launch of the company's Starliner capsule, despite what they say is a stable leak in the spacecraft's propulsion system. They say it won't be a safety issue for the crewed flight. Boeing is now targeting June 1st for the launch, with backup opportunities on the 2nd, 5th, and 6th of the month. The mission to deliver 2 NASA astronauts to and from the International Space Station is a major test for Boeing. The long-delayed launch comes as rival SpaceX has been flying NASA astronauts since 2020. That's what's happening here in the U.S. Back to you, Mumbai.
And remember, the global markets, the US markets will remain shut later this evening on account of Memorial Day. So there'll be no overnight queues for tomorrow morning. But that's the global market action. How will all of this impact our own markets? Now we have our research team joining in with how the trade setup looks like and the stocks that are likely to be in the news. First up, Vivek is in to get us with all the market cues that we need to watch out for. Vivek, good morning. What is the setup looking like?
Well, good morning. The setup looks quite bright given the fact that, we are currently flirting near the lifetime high levels. All U.S. markets ended overnight trade with gains, and Nasdaq ended at a fresh record high, fueled by the kind of rally that we saw as far as Nvidia is concerned. So Nvidia continued its rally overnight. Now, coming to crude oil prices actually on Friday hit a fresh 3-week low, and after that there was a very sharp rebound as far as crude oil prices are concerned, and crude oil prices actually managed to end in the green, but they continue to remain and hover around the lows. In fact, Brent futures trading near the $82 a barrel mark. Now let's come to the Indian markets. Indian market cues quite supportive. Intraday, there was a bit of a cool off as far as Friday's trading was concerned after hitting the 23,000 mark. So Nifty just closed below that, but last week, it was a stellar outperformance as far as Indian markets was concerned, almost a 2.5% gain across all of the indices. The good part last week was the fact that the banking pack made a good return, and in fact, one of the top gainers as far as the bank performance was concerned on Friday was the kind of outperformance in the weightage that Nifty, HDFC Bank managed to show. Now, along with that, what actually did well? The entire defense bank, whole of last week and even on Friday, the telecom bank made a very strong rebound. Brokerages have become very positive as far as the telecom pack is concerned, especially on Idea, and also given the fact that they now become constructive as far as tariff hikes are concerned. Now, today, whole lot of cues, whole lot of results that came, post-market hours on Friday. So look at names like Divi's Labs, NTPC, Torrent Pharma, Aurobindo Pharma, a lot of news flow as well as results come over there. Coming to Asian markets, quite strong. GIFT Nifty indicating a flattish to positive start for our own markets.
Vivek, thanks a lot for that. Now over to Sudarshan, who would list out the stocks that you need to watch out for. Sudarshan, good morning.
Good morning, Harma. So I'll start with all the pharma company that have reported earnings over the weekend. So starting with Divi's Labs, reported strong Q4 margin has come up more than 30% after 5 quarters. Margin is at 31.7% against estimate of 27.7%. Glenmark Pharma earnings were a mild miss. Revenues up 2% versus poll of 4% decline. Margin has come in at 16.5% versus poll of 15.7%. Aurobindo Pharma results have beat estimates. Revenues up 17% versus poll of 14% growth. Margin is 100 bips higher at 22.1%. And US sales were slightly below estimates at $432 million. And apart from earnings, company's arm Eugia's formulation manufacturing unit in Telangana is classified as official action indicated. Torrent Pharma reported an inline Q4, revenues up 10% versus poll of 12% growth, and company will take enabling resolution of up to rupees 5,000 crore fundraising in FY25. NTPC results were above estimates. Consolidated margin is up 300 bips and EBITDA has risen 20% year-on-year, and company is targeting new thermal orders of 15.2 gigawatt by FY27. Also for renewable business, company is guiding for listing in October or November of 2024. United States volume growth were above estimates while revenue growth was in line. Prestige and above volume growth has come in at 3.7% versus poll of 2 to 3%. Revenue growth for this segment was at 6.7%. Popular business volume growth has come in at 4% versus poll of 0 to 1%. And revenue growth for this segment has come in at 3.3% versus poll of 2 to 3% decline. Hind Copper strong Q4 earnings, margin has risen 800 bips. Bosch has reported second consecutive quarter of margin more than 13%. Keep an eye on Adani Ports and Wipro. Adani Ports to replace Wipro in sensex effective June 24. And lastly, Hero Moto company's tax demand is reduced to 178 crore from rupees 605 crore. So keep an eye on all these stocks.
Lots of stocks as always as we come off a weekend. Sudarshan, thanks a lot for that. And lastly, Mangalam is joining in with cues from the F&O space. Mangalam, good morning. We crossed 23,000 on Friday, but took a bit of a breather after that. What's the F&O setup looking like?
Always good to take a bit of a breath after a big sprint, right? That's what we saw on Thursday and Friday. But important part is now that we're getting comfortable with life above 23,000 for the Nifty. Let's see whether we can get comfortable with life above 50,000 for the Nifty Bank or not. Because, even as the frontline indices were absolutely flat, the Nifty Bank did well on both Thursday as well as Friday. Now just about 1,000 points away from a fresh record high. It was led by two factors. One, on Thursday and Friday, we saw the FIs buy in the cash market as did the DIIs. But on Friday, the FIs sold about 945 crores. The DIIs bought 2,300 crores. So net institutional positive flows of almost 1,000 odd crores. But the big data point was we've been talking about how FII shorts were near record high. In 2 trading sessions, those shorts have been all but squeezed out. In fact, 5,400 crore worth purchase on Friday in index futures by the FIs. And if you just take a look at the last 2 trading sessions, that's Thursday and Friday, and what the FIs did in index futures, on Thursday, 86,000 long contracts added, 35,000 short contracts covered. And then on Friday, they followed it up with nearly 50,000 long contracts being added and 35,000 short contracts being covered. And as a result of which, in just 2 trading sessions, the FIS short exposure, which was close to around 2.19 lakh contracts, has now come down to just 15,000 contracts. So that's the power of short covering that we saw in just 2 trading sessions. Longs are now 49% of the overall exposure, as against 31% in just 2 trading sessions. But now with 23,000 being the fulcrum for the Nifty, we've seen active, options action on both 23,000 call and 23,000 put, telling you that the broader market range broader range for the market is 22,700 to 23,300 itself for the market. The Nifty Bank will be, the key going forward, 2% away from an all-time high, and HDFC Bank just below its 200-day moving average, extremely crucial to watch out for. And just before I leave you, just watch out for a bunch of stocks, the ones which have entered F&O ban, 3 of them, and you have 5 of them which have exited F&O ban. So all of that would be in focus today.
Thanks a lot for that, Mangalam. An important point that Mangalam highlighted, the Nifty Bank is the key for the day, heading towards the mark of 50,000. But time for a short break on Power Breakfast. As we do that, let's listen into some important opinion on the outlook for Indian equities amidst the current FII selling, the election results and more. And that is coming in from Timothy Moore of Goldman Sachs.
I still think, or we still think, that the base case is that the BJP wins and has a comfortable majority in the Lok Sabha, the lower house of Parliament, which would enable continuation of the current economic policies, which of course are market friendly. So I think the base case for the market is a constructive one, but there's a small probability of a negative risk case, which is why at least some of the investors that we've been speaking with have maybe short-term, deep out-of-the-money puts just to as an insurance policy to hedge against the clear central case. So that's sort of the short-term market dynamics of it. It's not unimaginable, but it is, as I said, clearly not your overwhelming base case that the BJP and Prime Minister Modi would not do well. The continuing debate in the market, which we hear from all sorts of investors, is the very positive view of the longer-term fundamentals versus the valuation in the market. That's the obvious debate. The market's trading about 22 times earnings, and that's at the high end of its range. We think it deserves a high rating, but maybe that's a bit, too much. But our point is that the underlying strong earnings growth, which we think will be coming in about 16% this year and next, which compares very favorably with most other major large emerging markets or developed markets globally, is still sufficient to carry the day. And if I may just make two additional points. One is that notwithstanding all these concerns and uncertainty about the election and so forth, India quietly is up 6% in the first quarter and another 6% second quarter to date, giving it about 12% U.S. dollar returns for the year, which is only second to Taiwan in terms of the pecking order of returns, even above Japan and above China. China sort of was above that and has pulled back a little bit. So India's been kind of, slow but steady, doing well. And the second point I'd make is that foreigners have actually been net sellers. India has had the biggest outflows year to date. You've had about 32 billion net foreign buying in Japan year to date, -3 in India. You've had like sort of plus 16 in Korea and about 32 from the southbound coming into Hong Kong. So notwithstanding the foreign selling, you've seen the Indian market do well. Why? Because the Indian retail investor is continuing to put money into the market.
Back with us here on Power Breakfast, the economic momentum of the previous fiscal continues in the current quarter with an uptick in consumption-led growth and business activity. But geopolitical tensions could continue impacting commodity prices. Sapna Das is here to break down the details for us. Sapna, over to you.
Well, the government's assessment continues to be extremely positive for the current financial year, especially the ongoing quarter. And, the report is saying very clearly that the momentum that had been gathered in FY24, that continues in April, June. And there are a couple of indicators pointing towards that. The report is saying that private, investment is crowding in. Cap investment is up on the back of the government's push. Also, in terms of overall sentiment is much better as far as business activity is concerned, and that is likely to be so over the next few months, or rather the whole of FY25. Also, the RBI's consumer surveys, confidence surveys, they indicate that consumers generally are optimistic about the state of the economy, their income and their spending. Also, if you look at the bank credit, it has been doing extremely well as far as the services sector is concerned, particularly transportation sector, and real estate. So all of this is pointing towards buoyant sentiments rest of the months also. However, there continues to be a red flag which has been very much on the economic radar and having various implications, and that's basically the impact on global commodity prices because of the ongoing geopolitical tensions. So here the government's assessment is the fact that, for instance, as far as wheat is concerned, their prices are likely to be under control because of the ongoing procurement of the ongoing procurement season, and the wheat procurement so far has been pretty robust. This is what at least the government data is indicating. That the report does however, accept that in terms of certain pulses, there's a spike in prices. Also, the seasonal spike in vegetable prices. All of that needs monitoring. And let's also keep in mind that as far as India's food inflation is concerned, all the steps that the government has taken over the last 2 odd years, for example, the export restrictions, monitoring of stock, open market sales, all of these are still very much in place. So, the report finally says that these are the kind of firewalls that may possibly protect India from the onslaught of, high food prices globally, or for instance, high commodity prices. So, that's something that we need to watch out for. But overall, government is indicating another good FY25 as far as the economy is concerned.
Another quarter expected to be good as far as the government is concerned. But moving on, Motilal Oswal unveils a new 6-story tower in Bengaluru. Now, the chairman of the group, Ramdev Agrawal, tells us that he expects quick commerce space to transform and expand across the country. He also spoke about what to expect from the market going forward.
Yeah, so they're all part of the same, what you call, opportunity. I would say that that e-commerce or quick commerce. Yeah. So the quick commerce is becoming bigger than the food commerce, So food tech, they used to call it. Now it is a quick commerce, and it's a very large opportunity and very difficult to enter, and yet, very low margins right now, but growing like 100%, 150%. So I think Zomato, Blinkit, Instamart, and Zepto. These three are the big daddies. I think Big Basket, they're also there. So I think this space is going to become big. It is going to transform. Not that people are going to consume more FMCG, but it's just that the way they buy and the life. It is my household has somewhat changed because of this availability. Right now, it is maybe in Mumbai, Bangalore, and all, but it'll go across the country. So I think in next 10, 15 years, 20 years, you'll see the major transformation in consumer behavior in terms of how you procure your kitchen items or household items. See, there are 50, 60 sectors in the economy. Yeah. Now, what happens is, any given point of time, all of them are neither going down nor all of them are going up. Yeah. So right now we have about 20, 25 sectors which are doing very well, and 30, 35 sectors not doing so well, So the things will keep churning. Say like last year automobile was not doing well, but in last 3-4 quarters automobile has picked up big time, across. Even the affordable automobile like Hero MotoCorp and all TVS, they were not doing so well, but now they have also got momentum. So the trickle down of the wealth effect. See, one is that what the government is doing and what the consumers are doing. Third is what markets are doing.
Ramdev Agrawal there speaking to CNBC TV 18. Time for a short break. Up next, we get your cues from the commodities market. Stay tuned. Back on the other side. Welcome back. And a tragic fire incident at a gaming zone in Rajkot has taken the lives of 28 people so far, children included. Now the manager of the gaming zone and one of his partners have been arrested. According to officials, the facility was operating without a fire clearance for the past 3 years, and the fire is likely to have started when some welding work was taking place. The official also pointed out that there was a lot of inflammable material in the area, and that caused the fire to spread. Following the incident, the Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel has formed a special investigation team to probe the incident. And as promised, Manisha Gupta now joins in with all the cues from the commodity space. Manisha, good morning. Is that profit booking trend continuing from last week?
It is, yes, and it's a long weekend in the US as well, so we are going to be looking at lower volumes in most part of the day there. But yes, I'll start with the crude oil prices, and that booked a 3% decline in the previous week. It's all going to be about the OPEC and allies meeting, and by the way, they are virtually holding it this time on 2nd of June, and this will be done to review the production policy with an expectation that the OPEC and allies will continue to hold 2.2 million barrels per day off the market to support the prices, which are now trading at around nearly 3-month lows. In the precious metal prices as well, we've seen US dollar decline kind of of support gold and silver prices right now in Asia. So we are looking at some buying here, but the profit taking just about continues for the metal prices. So copper is off its all-time highs. There is some pressure that you can see in aluminum, iron ore, and steel prices also seem to be slightly under pressure in Asia right now.
Manisha, thanks a lot for all the updates there from the commodity space. And as Manisha highlighted, all eyes will be on the OPEC and allies meeting on the 2nd of June. Moving on, Cyclone Remal made a severe landfall over the coastal areas of West Bengal and Bangladesh on Sunday evening. According to the Indian Meteorological Department, the cyclone struck the region with winds of 110 to 120 kilometers an hour. In preparation for the cyclone, the Bengal government evacuated over 1 lakh people from the coastal regions to the cyclone shelters. A total of 14 NDRF teams were deployed to vulnerable areas of 9 districts in West Bengal, with additional teams on standby for rapid deployment if necessary. The Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose International Airport in Kolkata was also shut from Sunday noon, resulting in the cancellation of 394 domestic and international flights. And let's also now get you updates from the IPL final played last evening. The Kolkata Knight Riders comprehensively defeated Sunrisers Hyderabad in a one-sided final to lift the IPL trophy for the 3rd time. Batting first, the Sunrisers' dangerous lineup failed to fire and the team was dismissed for just 113, which was the lowest ever total in an IPL final after a dangerous opening spell by Australia's Mitchell Starc was followed up by strong bowling performances from the rest of the unit. The Kolkata Knight Riders made small work of the run chase, reaching the target with nearly 10 overs to spare to win their 3rd IPL title in history. Let's also look at how the Asian markets are faring before we wind down on the show. They had a positive start and the trend seems to be continuing as we speak. The Japanese and Korean indices were also trading higher. The Hang Seng continues to remain at that slightly positive bias around 0.3%. The Taiwanese index, though, has extended some of those gains. It was up 1%, and when we started the show, it's now up close to 1.5%. Pull up the GIFT Nifty as well, and that continues to indicate a flat start for our own markets. The implied open at the start of the show was around 10 points. It still remains 15 points. So a flattish start likely for our own markets. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Power Breakfast from me and the team that put this show together. Thanks a lot for watching. Bazaar Morning Call comes up next and takes the action forward.